Welcome back, everyone, to Jigga Vision. Uh, Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Certainly appreciate you guys joining. Today, I have the one and only Miss Makeda Smith. It's a pleasure having her on the channel. We're going to chop it up today and kind of dive into what Makeda does and what she's actually the benefit of what she's doing for us as soon to be entrepreneurs or already entrepreneurs and wanting to better their lives. So without further ado, Miss Makeda, go ahead and introduce yourself to the people.
Hey everyone, I am Makeda Smith. I am the CEO and founder of Savvy Chicks in Real Estate, which is a global real estate network. I like to say that we are number one in the world because that's what we strive for. And we are a global real estate network for a various amount of people who are inside of the real estate industry. So that's real estate agents, brokers, investors, and now also affiliates who are not really agents or investors. They just have a love for real estate. And so they are helping us to spread the word about the real estate opportunities that are out there abroad. And so we help our audience to do three things: that's travel, sell, and invest all over the world. So thank you, Chef MJ, Jigga, whichever the name is. But thank you so much for having me on your podcast. I'm happy to chop it up with you.
Absolutely, and it's a pleasure. So thanks for joining once again. So tell the people how long, when did you start, the real estate game? Like, how long has that been? And also, what was the path that you took to where you're at today?
Yeah, I would say before I say how many years I've been in real estate, remember that we all started from somewhere. We all started from the very beginning. It was a time when I had zero clients, but I have now since been in the real estate industry for 21 years. And for the last 3 years, I have been international. So a total of that 21 years. I started real estate in 2004. And basically it wasn't anything that I was looking to get into myself, but it was something that my husband seen in me, that he said, you know what, you'll make for a great real estate agent. And I was like, but I proceeded with it anyway. And now I've been in the industry for 21 years. I feel like it was my calling. It is my passion. I did become burnt out with the United States real estate market. And then my passion reignited for real estate when I start doing international real estate.
So hold that thought. Hold that thought. I'm glad because we're
Okay.
going to transition there. So definitely want to have people get caught on to everything that we're going to talk about. We don't want
Mhm.
to spill all the beans just yet.
Okay.
You know what's phenomenal, because I recently had an interview with also a realtor. He's an
Okay.
investor as well. And what I find very interesting, because you just said it, and I'm like, wow, it just rang the bell for me, is that you mentioned your husband was the one who initiated that conversation or initiated that thought, kind of
Mhm.
planted that seed right in your mind. And it kind of goes back to when I was interviewing him. He said the same thing as well. He's based out of Philly. He has over a little 25 doors right now. And so he mentioned that his wife was the one who ignited that passion. And so now that you're saying the same thing, I'm like, wow, how amazing it is. Because it truly is about your partner, right? Because without their support,
Mhm.
what will we be able to do? So kind of like talk about that, because our partner can say something to us and we're like, oh, just nip it in the bud and just put it in the back burner. But what made you say, you know what? Let me follow what he says. Let me listen to him.
I think that, and it's funny how you said that I followed him, I listened to him. He tell me I don't listen today, but I did listen. And that's the reason why, I'm in real estate. And I think because he just repeated it to me. And I think also when we put our house on the market, because we purchased a house in 2000. That was our first house together. We had rented previously before, and we had been married since 96. So at the year 2000, for 4 years into our marriage, we bought our first home. It was a HUD home, so it was a foreclosure. We bid on it. We won the bid. It was some radiators busted and missing in the property, but we figured that out. My husband, being who he is, a handyman, and he got it done. And so he made a house a home. And from there, we actually sold the house for 3 times more than what it was worth when we first purchased as a HUD home. And we
Right.
took that and we bought a home from the ground up, which I'm in now. And if I hold the camera up a little bit, you can kind of see like the place is empty because we're
Right.
preparing to put the house on the market because we've been here just as long as I've been a real estate agent.
Oh
And
wow.
so basically what that means when you said, how did I stick and stay in it? It's because when we sold our house and we sold it for 3 times more than what it was worth, I was able to see the type of commission that the agent and whom we used, or what she was getting, and what that could mean for me potentially, being a real estate agent. And then I just thought about the fact that, oh, if we just keep flipping our home every 3 years, then, we would be able to, continue to cash out. But what happened in 2008 when we got into the house in 2004, the market crashed. So we couldn't do that anymore.
Gotcha, gotcha. Yeah, and that was a turmoil for a lot of people, right? In terms of, and not only just homeowners. Of course, the impact was extraordinary when with homeowners. However, even those who were renting, like myself around that time, I know the impact because everyone moved into renting. So the
Mhm.
prices in renting a place, I skyrocketed as well. It's kind of like a supply and demand. But then, man, the it was crazy around that time. So I definitely understand. So now we understand. We started off, and it's been 20. We said 21 years now.
Yep.
21 years in the game. Of course, this was something that was brought up to by your husband, and you kind of took the horn by, took the bull by its horn and ran with it, which is amazing. Because here where we're at right now, 2025, this has become your passion, and you kind of
Mhm.
touch base on it, which we're going to dive in a little bit as far as what you're doing now. But tell the people how you and I met, right? And so, because of your passion, and of course, with me looking for answers. Do you remember or do you recall the introduction that we had?
I think the introduction was via I posted something on Instagram and you responded to it and we were communicating via DM. I continue to follow up. I remember Moses saying to me, the developer, y'all, who we are, both connected to. I remember
Right.
him saying that you told him that I'm glad Makeda kept following up with me. And so that's like one of my real estate skills is to make sure that because the fortune is in the follow up, and that's in business, period. A lot of times, people, when they hear the word no, or they hear I'm going to think about it or give me some time, they take that as defeat and they don't follow back up. And so, all I can do is continue to follow up to see whether or not somebody is, interested because situations change from day to day.
Right. And so for me, kind of give you the backstory on why I made mention of that to Moses. Um, I traveled the world, and so I had the privilege, whether it be for work, business, whatever have you. And so one of the things that I kind of had my eyes on at one particular time, a few years back, was the Dominican Republic. And so I went down there a couple of times and I saw properties and things of that nature. Got a realtor, was doing everything as well, like I did in Ghana. And what happened was it was a disaster. Long story short, I got scammed out of my money, right? And so that kind of it broke me into pieces. But as men or people that you know what I mean, that always bounce back, I just wanted to kind of like, what, I need to bounce back. And so when I told him that it wasn't just because you were following up, but it was because I was afraid, right? Oh my God. This is insane.
Ooh, it is hot. It's hot.
Mm.
It's hot. It's hot. It's hot.
I joined another network this time.
Uh-huh.
I've joined another network. So hopefully,
Oh, okay.
so it has to
So
be more. Huh?
I was gonna say pick back up where you said the reason why you brought that up to Moses. I didn't hear nothing after that. It just
Oh,
started saying reconnecting.
oh, okay, cool. All right, cool. So the reason why I brought that to Moses was because of fear. Because what was happening, I've traveled around the world. I went to a few places. I've lived in different countries, and one in particular that I had my eyes on was Dominican Republic. And for those who have kids, we always want to look at the future, not for us, but for our kids, leaving something behind. And I remember in the Dominican Republic, the prices of the homes there, they were very affordable. And so I was looking at a couple of properties in Punta Cana and also in Puerto Plata. I was actually going to Puerto Plata quite frequent. And long story short, Makeda, I got scammed, right? And so I lost so much money there, over 50
Wow.
grand. And so for me, having to go into that process again was very challenging. I prayed about it. And something that always rings in the back of my head, a good friend of mine who's also a business owner always told me, she said, scared money don't make no money, right? Although it is a part of a rap, but it's something that throughout the years she's always made mention to me. And that kind of stuck in the back of my head. I was like, you know what? You're right. It is. I started having that idea of what do I have to lose? But I did have to lose a lot because I lost before, right? And I have to
Mm-hmm.
start all over again. So I was like, you know what? I prayed again and I prayed it again. And what happened and the way that things happen, and I don't know if you knew this, but I didn't go for the property that I got. I went for the property he hasn't started yet, which he's going to actually build next to it. And it was in
Mm-hmm.
the midst of, first and foremost, the connection we had. I didn't feel like I was speaking to a developer. I felt like I was talking to my homeboy that I've known for years. So we
Right.
clicked on
Right.
another level, and it made me extremely comfortable. In addition to the fact that there were also other units to something that he had already started. So I was like
Mm-hmm.
putting two and two together because right after him, I was supposed to go meet a realtor and put 2 years rent a place for 2 years. And I was like, yo, hold up. I started thinking, very analytical. So I was like, you know what? Let me put that money into this. And 4 or 5 years down the line, if I don't want this, I can always sell it and make profit back. I would never do that or never
Right.
get that back in renting a place. So that's how that came about. And then, of course, you were checking up on me. I had 1,000,001 questions for you. There was not one time you sound or seemed like you were annoyed. You've answered those questions based on what I read. I was like, oh, she was very informative, knowledgeable, and things like that. So that was in, a combination of other things was the reason why I said, you know what, let me go with that. So yeah, so it was definitely, as you stated, through the IG and just making it a comfortable process in addition to connecting me with Moses. Because many of the times we don't get that. It's always transactional. And it's like, do this,
Yeah.
do this, do this, do this, and that's it. But it was a very warm feeling and a warm environment that you created. And also Moses just took the baton and ran with it. So that was definitely appreciative. And kind of like connecting with you guys kind of pushed me like, you know what? If anyone that wants properties or need assistance is always going to go right back to you guys as far as my perspective because of the
Mm-hmm.
warmth that you guys provided. Yes, indeed. So that's the backstory that I digress
Yeah.
now. So now we connected. So talk to us in that property that Moses is now developing, right? And what parts you have in it, and what is the goal, and what is it that you're trying to do, and not just African American, but all people that wants to invest or
Yeah.
want to live in Ghana.
Yeah, so it's funny that you said that because I had put a prompt into my chat GPT about creating some type of video script, and it was like, for like Black, Americans. And I'm like, I'm called to nations. And I said, don't just label it like Black Americans. There's a space for that. because people who look like me is attracted to things that I'm doing because they see a Black American woman doing it. But I was like, I'm open to working with nations. So whether you coming from the Asian continent or the Caribbean, continent, or the Americas, I'm ready to work. So I'm glad that you said that. But for me, the relationship started when Moses reached out to me. And Moses, this was those of you, we put it in some context. He is a 29-year-old developer in Ghana. He is from Ghana, native to the land. He is a co-founder of this development. And I'm not saying a name, on purpose, but his development, him and his partner, they found it. But he is very, very big, as I told you before this podcast, on marketing and branding. And so he reached out, he asked one of his friends, like, I need a partner, in America that would be able to help bridge the gap between like the US diaspora and what we're building over here in Ghana. First of all, because he knows that there are people that are relocating back to Ghana. There is that initiative, the Year of Return. And then there's another initiative as well to where they're trying to get people to come back to the motherland and West Africa, Ghana specifically. And so he was like, he needed a partner. And so the guy mentioned my name and we ended up talking immediately, like you said, hit it off.
Right.
Because it was like talking to a family member,
Mhm.
especially with him being kingdom minded, and we just connected on that level. And from there, I was like, okay, I need to vet you to bring you on because people say that they have property, people say that they can sell this, but I need to make sure that I vet the process. And so I ended up doing that, and Moses got a little impatient because he was like, what's taking so long? And I'm like, look, like I got to go through all this paperwork. You could barely get somebody on a phone, at the land department. And so, and especially trying to do it from America, it took a little time. And so
Right.
for me, we are partnered together with myself being a real estate broker for the last 21 years and me having a network of real estate agents and brokers all over to where not only can I help him to sell his property, but then my agent network can also help him to sell his properties and move the units. And so we've been able to sell like maybe 12 units so far, and like
Oh, wow.
now the property that you purchased in that building, I had a
Yeah.
chance to walk it. I don't know if I sent you your video, but I walked your apartment. I gotta send you a video.
Oh, that would be
Yeah, I
dope.
walked. And he said that you would appreciate the fact that your unit is slightly bigger and you have like this wall that's built up that feels like a one bedroom. So I was like, he's gonna love that. But I was so impressed with the restaurant on the top floor, the gym, the pool, everything is coming along just
Right.
as it is supposed to be from like, the brochure and the renderings that I showed you. Because a
Right.
lot of times people will say, well, it don't look like that. And I'm like, well, it has to start with a vision, you
Right.
know,
Right.
and then we get there. And so our partnership is just basically me helping to spread the word to promote about the units that are available in the two developments that he has right now, and then the
Mhm.
one that will be coming at the end of the year
Right.
that he will be launching. So I'm just excited about the partnership because even though I work with a lot of developers, it's just something different about this relationship because of the
Right.
kingdom aspect. And like you said, it's like you working with family.
Facts, facts. And that's, you guys are a great combination, a great match, and, very passionate about what you do. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm thankful and grateful that I met both of you guys. So that's amazing
Thank
that
you.
that partnership continues. So we were talking about Ghana with this
Mm-hmm.
with Moses and what he's building out there, and of course, this is just the beginning for him, right? Now, tell the people, because from my understanding, it doesn't just stop in Ghana for you, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's what I try to tell people. What sets me apart from like other brokers or other organizations is that God did not just have me to branch out into one nation. And so I started selling international real estate outside of the US in the Dominican Republic. And then from
Mm,
the Republic, I got connected to Ghana, and from Ghana, I connected to Dubai. From connecting to Dubai, it was Nigeria. From Nigeria, it was Kenya, and now Zanzibar. And
Right.
pretty soon, we're looking to bring on some developers that are in Colombia because there's a high level of Black aspects that have moved over to Colombia, and so I'm excited about that. And it's not that we're going to work in like every country, you know, on the earth, but it
Right.
is the countries in which we are called to. And some of the countries that have like easier barrier of entry for people to be able to get their citizenship, to be
Right.
able to get their residency, to be able to have investment by visa programs, people that have tax exemptions, like you have tax exemptions in the Dominican Republic for up to 15 years on
15
approved
years. Right.
property. But then you have in Dubai, you have no real estate property taxes. And I always tell people that even though these are the rules of the countries right now, it does not mean it will always be the rules of the country. So
Right.
it's better to take advantage of those rules where the properties are priced low, where there is no real estate property tax, where there are other benefits that you can get right now that may
Right.
not be available next month.
Maybe I should have met you when I was interested in DR. Maybe I could have had a couple properties
We
by
can
then.
always go back because
Oh,
we
I'm,
only have two developers that we work with right now in DR. I don't work with every developer.
right, right. Yeah, and I think you're that's the amazing part of, I feel like with you is the fact that you're selective in who you want to work with, right? And so that's dope because I think we had this conversation earlier on, and just putting that trust in that developer is what enables you to be able to connect and to being able to work with them and partner with them. Because a lot of the times you just think about money, right? How can I make a quick buck? It don't matter the ethics or what have you. And so that's one of the aspects and one of the personality traits that I do admire. It's not about the money for you, although you're gonna get it, but it's the connection and the partnership. Um, but about DR, I would have to tell you that offline because I don't think I'll ever go back. But that's an offline story. But okay, so we're now in Dubai. We're now in Zanzibar. I'm a little jealous of you because I know you were in Zanzibar not too long ago, and I was like, OMG. But one of the things, because I follow you on IG, of course, right? And so let's also tell the people, because it's not just about I'm selling properties. It's not just about connecting with developers and so on and so forth, but you're doing some sort of retreat when you're going to these international waters or land. Explain to the
Mhm.
people what that looks like, what was the initiative, and what makes you want to do these type of things.
So it wasn't anything that I wanted to do. It was something that I was led to do. I just say that look up and like, Lord, how did I get here? So basically, how it happened is that I was actually on one of my friends' retreats, my husband and I, in October of 2022. We were invited to be guest speakers of how couples run a business together. And so we spoke. And then from there, for the rest of the week, we actually went outside in Dubai. And when I got to the desert and I looked around and all I saw was sand from miles and miles around, I was in a place that I had never ever been in before. Being, I think at that time, 47 years old. And I'm looking like we are in the middle of the desert. Like we are in the middle of the desert. Kind of like people get to Africa and they be like, I'm in Africa. Like this is
Right.
Africa. So I'm in the middle of the desert and I take off my shoes, put my footprint in the sand, and I'm walking and I'm praying a prayer of Jabaz, and I'm like, Lord, enlarge my territory. And when I say that he enlarged my territory, by the time October of 2022, my husband and I, we took a trip to Bali in that December. And then when I came back in January, I'm like, I'm taking everybody with me. And so I invited a few people. I held a brunch. I invited a few people to go to Bali. Only one person bought a ticket. So I'm like, oh, this is a bad idea. But no, in 2 weeks we sold out. I think
Wow.
that was the most my company ever made in like a 1 month period to where we were close to making like $100,000
Mm.
in 1 month. And so by April, we were taking almost 20 women to Bali, Indonesia. And by
Wow.
June, we were in the Dominican Republic with 75 people for a conference. By
Wow.
September, we were in Dubai, and we were in Egypt for the first time with about another 18 people. By the
Mhm.
time we got to December, we were in Ghana with 20 people. And
Wow.
so it just kept going on and on and on. To last year, we've been to Maldives, which is new for us. We just got back from Zanzibar last month, which was a new country. We've been to Greece, which was a new country. We took people with us, but it's basically people just going out and finding where their promised land is. People go
Mhm.
out, and not only do they get property, but some people just go and they get clarity. Some people just go and they get what they need for the actual moment. And so I think for us, the last 3 years, people have just been really searching like
Right.
what that next is, and trying to
Right.
figure out like it has to be something more to life than just working, paying bills, and going beyond her.
That
Yeah,
is a
go on
fact.
yonder. Yes.
That is a fact, and I'm glad you touched on it because I was going to ask: is it just for real estate or buying properties and stuff? So you answered that because one of the things that I kind of also, but this was years ago when I
Mm-hmm.
looked at and analyzed my life, and I was like, life isn't just about paying bills and
Mm-hmm.
living paycheck to paycheck. It isn't. It's not about that, and it shouldn't be like that.
Mm-hmm.
And hence why with all of those ideas that I had, and just kind of like, what, sometimes we also too have to be a little bit selfish. We
Yeah.
need to kind of clear what's up here. We need that mental break. We
Mm-hmm.
need that wusa, that physical, spiritual, and mental wusa that we need to kind of like attend to ourselves. And I did that, and I think it was very cleansing for me. And so I can only imagine your retreat in these exotic places. Like, I'm so jelly of you. Now, Maldives is on my bucket list, so I definitely have to check that out one of these days. So that's amazing that you're able to give people that whatever it is that they may be in need of, right? Whether it be
Mm-hmm.
property, that peace of mind, that moment to themselves or with their spouse. So that's dope. So before I even go further, is the retreat just women only, or there are couples retreat? Like, can you also talk about that, and also like
Yeah.
who's able to join?
Yeah, it's everybody. But of course, because I'm a black woman, I attract black women. But there are men that come on our retreats. There are couples that come on our retreats. We have people that are not real estate agents. Like, okay, is it for me? And typically I get that all the time anyway. So before I even started doing international retreats, I was hosting conferences and events all over Chicago and in different states here in the United States. And people will ask me, is it just for real estate agents? And when they come, they be like, I did not know that I needed this. Like people would say, like, I did not know that I needed this. I thought that I was just coming to an event to support my friend. And they were like, the information that I received is transferable. So,
Right.
like, even going for an example, going to Ghana, when you go to the slave castle, it doesn't matter if you are a real estate agent, if you're an accountant, if you are a freelancer or somebody who work, a 9 to 5. It doesn't matter who you
Right.
are. Somebody is always going to be able to identify and find a lifelong message from being in those dungeons. Like you get a message, and even doing like the river walk, the ancestral river walk, that's a message in by itself. Stepping off of the plane and having someone
Oh
that
my.
looks like you to be able to greet you with a quappa, and it's all over the airport. You get there, you vibing out. Sometimes you get greeted at the airport with dancers, and it's like a whole cultural experience. And case in point, when I was in Ghana last time, one of the ladies, she was like, come out with me. And I'm like, no. So we ended up going to Bella Afrique Italian restaurant. She said, you got to go and experience it. And I was
Yeah.
like, okay, let's go. So we hop in the Uber, got there. It felt like it was a club, but it wasn't a club. It was a restaurant, but it was all this live drums going
Yeah.
on. The DJ, she had her big afro on. She was just bobbing to the beat. It was so nice, and just the atmosphere. But you know who was in there? Everybody.
Cool.
Everybody. Everybody of different nationalities,
Right.
colors, hair types. I'm sure all different vaxes of people who are entrepreneurs or who work or whatever, or probably stay at home. But everybody was in there just vibing to them drum beats.
And it's a vibe out there. I've been there a few times myself. It's definitely a vibe in Belle Afrique. And it's great that you have these wonderful things that you're doing. I'm kind of going to peel back a little bit because we kind of dove into what you're doing now,
Okay.
which is amazing, which is phenomenal. But even probably something I'll probably be learning from about you as well. Like, so where are you from originally? Like, where were you born and raised, and what's your roots?
So let's start with my parents' roots. My parent roots, and this is both my mom and my dad, they are from Mississippi. They didn't meet until they were actually here in Chicago, but they are both from Mississippi. Their family is from Mississippi. My dad was actually, he just turned 75 yesterday, and he was telling me and my sister the story about how back then, I think it was in the 60s, a lot of Black Americans that were in the South, especially in Mississippi, they migrated to Milwaukee and to Chicago because they were looking for jobs that was not in the South. And so they came west. And so I was like, oh, my daddy giving us a history lesson. And so it was a good thing, just to know. But I'm born and raised in Chicago. And people tell me all the time that I have some type of country accent, but I'm from Chicago, so that's where my roots are. I grew up West Side Chicago. I went to Chicago Public School at high school. I went to Catholic school from the time I was in kindergarten up to eighth grade. I graduated. I was not Catholic, but my mom and my dad wanted us to have a great private education, so they sent us to private school to a Catholic school, and it was because of the education. But I grew up West Side Chicago. I did 2 years of college, but from there, I worked, and then I got married. I got married at the age of 21. My husband and we will make 29 years in September. Our youngest child is 26. He'll be 27 in December. We are empty nesters. I just turned 50 2 months
Wow.
ago.
Wow.
Yeah, just turned 50
Yeah,
2 months ago. I know I don't look it. Take a
you
picture.
definitely don't.
So,
Definitely
so
don't.
yeah,
Well,
that's a little bit about my background.
that's dope. That's dope. And first and foremost, happy belated to your dad. Amazing hitting 75. That's dope.
Mhm,
We all wish to live that long, if not longer. And
mhm.
so that's amazing. And one thing that kind of, what we hear, right, about Chicago, and it's so weird. It's funny because Chicago is one of my favorite cities to go to. So Chicago and then
Okay.
San Diego. I've been to Chicago
Okay.
as well. And so, but what we hear in the news and the bad track that Chicago gets, it's really bad. But whether it's true or not, it's good to hear that you have that background, and that you're, based on what I see and based on what I know about you, is that you don't stop. You continue and you getting it. And like you said before, is the kingdom. It's all about what God's giving you and what it is that He's giving you in your life to be able to help others, right? Because from my understanding, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, you're a woman of faith, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
That's evident. It's all over my page. I think that um people talk about how people put on, like, right now with everybody having, like, a lot of people, I'm not gonna say everybody, a lot of people have a hard time. It's like Christianity or faith, like, spirituality is very popular right now. But it's always been a part of my life. And even when I did not know God, God knew me.
Right.
Because the reason why I say that, being at the age of 50 years old, you kind of like look back over your life, like, how is it that I'm doing all of this stuff global? I have this global mandate on my life. And now I recently started using the word like global leader, because I'm learning to accept, who I am as I walk in this. And I don't know if you saw my post, last week when I was in Ghana. I met with Ambassador Bennett of the Diaspora African Forum that's in
That's what
Ghana.
yeah.
And I had told her, I said, how did you, because I'm looking at all her accolades and all the pictures, all the history on her wall. And it was like a Oprah wall. And I was like, how did you, and she's 75. And I'm like, how did you manage all of it? How did you carry all of this? And
Right.
so she told me that, she says yes to the right opportunities that's going to make impact. She no longer leaves her house for things that are not going to make impact or bring her joy. She says no to them. And I was like, oh, okay. So all the unhappiness come when you're always like, yes, I can do it. Yes, I'll be
Right.
there. And it's like, okay, say no, Makeda. Like, say no. You have lived half your life. Learn how to say no, and it's
Right.
okay to put you first. And so the impact that God has made in my life now, as I'm walking in my purpose and my mission, it changed. One of the things that Moses said to me when we were in Zanzibar, because he was a speaker at my event in Zanzibar. And he was like, he told his wife that, before they got married, he was like, you have to share me with the world because it's like, this is who I am. And so I said, yeah, Moses, but what about when you're married to somebody? I got married at 21. My husband didn't have to share me with the world. Like I was all his, like, it was all him. But now it's like all of these people that he has to share me with. And
Right.
so that's kind of like one of the things that being completely transparent that I'm constantly trying to navigate because I don't have an example in my family of what I'm doing because I am the first in my family to do it. And so
So
I
you're now
know
the
that.
example.
Yeah, so I know that I have to be the one to leave the blueprint. So even when it comes to like overcoming generational poverty or generational lack or disorganization, like I know that I have to be the one to be the cycle breaker and cut it off with me. Because I
Right.
remember even having that conversation with my dad yesterday. He just began to go back down memory lane about my mom and bills and like, just the mistakes that he made with her and how if he can go back and, do it over again, what he would do. And I was like, this is things that, I need. Now, granted, I'm like, okay, my dad must be pouring the beans because he just turned 75 because I'm like, I think I could have went all my life without hearing some of the things he told me yesterday. I could have went my whole life without hearing some of the things. But nevertheless, I understood more about where I came from, why I struggled with certain things, and then why things just continue to come to the surface because it's
Right.
not really just me. It's like what came before me. And so
Exactly.
it's like, how do you break that off the cycle so that your descendants and your children's children don't have to deal with those things? And so, like I said, God was with me before I even knew him, before he formed me in my mother's womb. I knew that I was purposed, all of my life. I knew that the favor of God was on my life from high school, but I didn't know what it was until now. But I
Right.
know that it was the favor of God on my life.
And it's not, and the reason why I asked, of course I knew, but for those who don't know, for those who's meeting you for the first time or hearing your story for the first time, that's the reason why I ask. And one of the
Mhm.
things that you mentioned, and I kind of apply it to me as well, is he uses us. God does. He uses us to our ability, and I think it's the trust that we ought to have in him to be able to be utilized by him. And I think a lot of the time, Makeda, and I don't want to make this, you know, get too deep into this, but I feel as if our own calling sometimes we don't answer. And hence why we don't use or we don't get to the capacity that we ought to be as far as a person, as humans or what have you.
Mhm.
And but when we listen and we answer that call and we make those applications, I think we not only just our lives become better, but what you said earlier is leaving for our future, which are our kids, our grandkids, and so on and so forth. And I think that's amazing because, like you said, you didn't have any examples, right? You are
Mhm.
that person. You're the one who's starting this. And so who's to say now that your kids are watching you doing this and not only
Mhm.
doing it, but doing an amazing job, right? And so
Mhm.
now they can pick up the baton and take it from there. Who knows, right? And so it's all about what we're doing because they are watching at some point, right? So
Yeah.
that's amazing. That's really dope. So tell us, is there anything else that's brewing right now that you want to let the people know? Whether it be anything to do with real estate, anything for that matter that you want to share, something up and coming.
I think two things. So I do want to talk about the retreat that we have coming up in December because that's going to go deeper. But what I feel like has been brewing is that before God had me out here in these international spaces, that I always would be like, why am I out here? I feel like I'm out here by myself on an island. Ain't nobody understanding global. My network, like, okay, we still local. We ain't going global. You can go over there. We'll cheer you on, but we ain't going. But
Right.
now I feel like 3 years later, like it's I understand why he put me out there, because it's kind of like being the forerunner going before. It's like how Joseph had to go ahead to Egypt when the famine came so that his family and his people, they had a place to go, and there was a strategy for it. And so I feel like we're in that place now, that I want to let the people know that people have already gone before you to these different places, to these different countries, because God is opening up space for people to be able to leave here and go to their actual promised land, wherever that may be for you, because
Right.
it could be a different continent, it could be a different country, but where is that place for you? And I always give case in point when he told Abraham to go outside of his country to the land in which he showed for him to leave, and Abraham did it not knowing where he was going. And I feel like this is the
Oh
time to
Lord.
people, some people need to leave their country, and they need to make sure that they have their passport and that they go to a land that's flowing with milk and honey. And when I say milk and honey, it has all the resources and everything that you need in order to be able to grow. I was looking at this diagram the other day, and how there was this family, and it was a picture of a family that was on 1 acre of land. It was a house and all of this different vegetation on the house, and around the house. And I was like, that's what I'm talking about. And so I was reading the book of Genesis the other day, and I was like, this was God's purpose for us to be able to eat from the land.
Right.
And we completely got away from that. So you asked me, like, is there anything that I want to let people know? Is that get outside of your comfort zone. Get outside of your comfort zone may be getting outside of the country. Make sure you all have your passports, not just for yourself to go on vacation, but that you have it as a blueprint, as a safety net for you and your family, because God doesn't send chaos or destruction before a warning. So just make sure that you are in preparation. Before, I used to say, well, I'm not going to say that because people are going to say I'm fear mongering. Now I don't care, because when I look around and I see what's going on, I don't care. So whoever has the ear to hear is going to hear, they're going to receive it. So that's the one thing that I wanted to say, is that just be prepared. Have your passport. Don't, I would rather for you to have an option to have a place to go than for you to just have all your eggs in one country's basket and risking it all.
I
Yeah.
second that dearly, because I have a 2-year-old, and in fact, I was just talking to his mom. She called me. She was like, "I think it's time for us to get a passport for little man." I said, "You know what? You ain't never lied." And so I'm on that same sentiment. Of course, we could dive a little bit. We could dive deeper into this conversation, but we won't. That'll be for another time. But we know what you're talking about. I know what you're talking about, and it's in our face every single day. It's on the news. It's everywhere. So I agree 1,000%. And I've been fortunate enough.
The second thing that I wanted to
I
get
currently have
across
3
is that
passports.
we
I'm
are
trying
having
to
a
go for my
retreat
4th.
December 1st through
I
the
want one in
10th.
Europe. So
And the
Portugal,
reason
I'm in
why
love with
this retreat, and
Portugal.
it's going to
Outside
be in
of
Ghana,
Ghana,
but
it's
the reason why
Portugal
this
for
retreat
me.
is different
And
is
so I
because
can't, I
it's
would love
geared
to get a
towards developers
Portuguese
and
passport. So
investors.
that's my end goal.
Just
So
like I just
I'll
talked
be
about
good
on the
with that.
spiritual side, now
So
there's
that's
the
so that was
business
one
side
thing. I
to
know you
where
mentioned it
we
was 2
have to
things
make sure
that's booming
that
right now.
we
So what's the
are
second
putting
thing?
in investments in other places, just like millionaires and billionaires have been using this technique for decades. And we feel like we didn't have access to it, but we now have access through it through education, because of people like me, because of people like you. We have social media, TikTok, we have YouTube, and people are now learning where they can go and get their Portugal passport, how they can get their passport, in Ghana. But now we want to teach people, how do you invest? How do you open up a business bank account in other countries like, the top 1%? How do you go and open up an offshore account so that you can have money that is outside of your current country's currency and begin to live like the top 1%? Even if you don't have the top 1% money, you can still make these moves through education and just knowing and passing this down to your family. And so that's just one of the big things that I want to get, is that we have to begin to make these investments outside of what we know.
Right. 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 And to that, I just definitely want to encourage people, and I'm going to let people know about your retreat as well. Continue to post it so that I can share, because just to what you said, to add to that, even if you have the idea or thought of leaving the US and going to another country, it may not be Ghana, but go in that retreat. See what Ghana's like. It's only 10 days, December 1st through the 10th, right? Go in and take a look and get your feet wet, so to speak, and see what Ghana has to offer you. And maybe at that point, the light, you know what I mean? The bell was just ringing in your head and like, hey, maybe it's a good place and a good opportunity to invest. And best people to do that with is Miss Makeda Smith, right?
Mhm.
So I definitely second that. I will absolutely share it, continue to post it. This retreat. So if I know anyone that's interested, which a couple of people that I know have been talking about Ghana, because it's one of the things that I continue to stress out, that Ghana is this amazing place to be. And, if it wasn't for my kids, like, I would not be here, right? And so I come free just because I want to spend time with them, take them on trips and stuff like that, and having those experiences. And of course, when they hit a certain age, I'll have them down in Ghana with me or wherever else in this world that I may be, because I liken the world as to what God gave us, right? Where we shouldn't be restricted to just one thing, whether we're not happy or where we're at or not. That shouldn't be the matter. God gave us the globe, and we should visit. We should go anywhere and everywhere that we desire, even though there are restrictions, even though there's a thing called passport that sometimes disables us. But go ahead and get your passport, as you mentioned, Makeda, for those of you guys who are interested in seeing what the world has to offer. And I'm going to say this, and if you're from a black descendant, it would be great to visit somewhere in Africa. You don't necessarily have to be Ghana, but anywhere in Africa, because you then can understand your roots. You can then understand the history that unfortunately we were misled here in the States. So that's just that. So that's amazing. So we certainly appreciate that. Now, Makeda, is
Oh,
there
there you
any
go.
social handles you want to share with the
There
people
you go.
to check you out, and anything and everything that people that can be always know what you're doing, what's going on as far as the real estate and anything else, or retreats that you have going on?
Yeah. So I would say follow me on all social media platforms. It's Makeda Smith Global. You can go to savvychicksandrealestate.com. We haven't been able to catch our website on, up with everything that we're doing, but we are working on it. But
Okay.
everything most updated is going to be on social media. So Makeda Smith Global on all social media platforms. You'll be able to find me and like what our next retreats. We have Ghana upcoming, and then we have South Africa. We have Ghana conference next year in September. And then at the top of 2027, we're going to Bali.
Nice, nice. When are
Yeah.
you? Where in South Africa you're going?
We're going April 28th through May 7th. We're going to go to 3 cities: Cape Town, Kruger, and Johannesburg.
Gotcha. Okay, that's dope. And
Yeah.
guys, I've been to Cape Town. Cape Town is like, so I always say, I'll make the joke and saying it's an advanced America, but it was
Mhm.
surprising to me. You don't feel it doesn't feel like you're in Africa when you're in Cape Town. So it was a great trip for me. So I hope those of you who's going to join Makeda on that trip have an amazing time. Makeda, any final words, any words of inspiration you want to leave with the people before we leave?
Yeah, I was looking at a video earlier today, and I wanted to say the video talked about, I forget this guy's name, but he talked about how fear, you have to face fear. And for a lot of times, I have been like avoiding certain things. My husband used to tell me, "You're the person who always wants to bring out the elephant in the room." But over the last 3 years, I've been so busy. I don't want to bring out no more elephants. I just want to have you go about your business and I go about my business. But God has been dealing with me and like facing the fear and the things that I have been putting off, because what he explained in that video is that fear helps us to deal with what we should be dealing with. But when we avoid it, it brings on all these extra things. But it's really there to protect us, because it's like, it's something that we need to be aware of. But instead of running from fear, it's time for us to face fear. And so, whatever that may be, I would say, based on my personal experience, y'all, to face the fear so that you can grow stronger, not just on the exterior, but so that you can build up your internal spiritual muscles by facing fear. So that's what I would say. That's what I'm dealing with. That's what I'm working on for myself, my personal journey. Face the fear.
That's amazing. And with that being said, I will face my fear. So, Makeda, it's absolutely a pleasure. Thank you for joining us. Thanks for being on Jigga Vision. I could not wait to have you, so I appreciate it. And until next time, guys, thank you for tuning in, and we're out.